What is happening, which I expected, is far too many people are overreacting. Uh, it's one game at the end of the day, and we played. Even though they didn't have Paul George, we played a really good team, probably the best defensive team in the league. So it's one game. We came into the game with three guys that played who were on the roster last year, an entirely new team, new coaching staff, new system, new everything. And I think we pretty much matched them as far as how well we played. I think at the end of the day, it just came down to in the second half, Lou Williams and Kawhi Leonard did better, made more shots, made tougher shots too, than LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They obviously struggled the second half, putting the ball in the hole. LeBron missed one easy layup. He missed a couple other shots he usually makes. But overall, I think it was good. I don't think there's too much that has to change because I think you need a few games before you can see what you have to change, which directions you want to go in. I do like the fact that they were really emphasizing Anthony Davis in the beginning of the game. Really throughout the game. I do think it's good that he's the focal point. He can change a few things up, though. I think after he had a few buckets fall, he became a little too tunnel visioned, and there was many opportunities for him to kick it out to wide open guys for threes, but he forced a few. Shots just weren't falling that should fall in the end of the day in the second half. I think that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely, because they had tied it up at the end of the third quarter. It was tied up. It's just that fourth quarter seemed to be an issue on how they closed it out. Also, as well, the bench did not provide the kind of lift you were hoping for. I know a lot of people are going off immensely as far as in Laker Twitter land in regards to one Kentavious Caldwell Pope, who played 25 minutes roughly and gave us a whopping donut for points and that type of contribution. I also want to focus in as well on the fact that Kyle Kuzma was there. I think he was very sorely missed because his replacements, Troy Daniels and especially Dudley, just both came into the game. And if you look at their plus minus, for Troy Daniels, it's a minus 16. And for Jared Dudley, it is a minus 20. And you cannot have that when you're in the game and you're really playing on a team and you're part of a team that's out there and you're losing that many points. That's just something you cannot do as far as coming off the bench.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Obviously, Dudley hit those 2 threes, but he's a little too old, a little too heavy in the feet on that defensive end. Right before he got taken out in the fourth quarter, I think he gave up back-to-back buckets. And Troy Daniels isn't exactly the best defender either. I will say with Caldwell Pope, though, I've been seeing a whole lot of people getting on him too. I think he actually played 28 minutes. He has to be better offensively. He has to knock down shots. He's one of the guys we're going to rely on. But he did play pretty damn good defensively. I will say, he was guarding some of the tougher tasks, whether it was Kawhi Leonard at some points, Lou Williams. So while he did play well defensively, there's no doubt about it. He needs to step up offensively. And of course, anytime a guy like Kyle Kuzma's out, you're going to miss him. And fourth quarter would have been perfect when LeBron's not making shots, Anthony Davis isn't making shots. You have a guy who can score 18 to 20 a game. He definitely would have helped a lot. But at the end of the day, you can't really use it as an excuse when they didn't have Paul George, who is obviously on a entirely different level than him.
That's true. I mean, with his shoulder injuries coming back from it, they're out. He's out another 10 games. The Clippers just provided a more balanced type of offense, and defensively, they really put the clamps on when they needed to. Initially, it looked like the Lakers were going to get off to a great start because they did. I think it was 13-2. I think they got off to a great start like that. But unfortunately, like I said, it all materialized into a 40-point second quarter for the Clippers. And, of course, that closed out with a fourth quarter that was just way too strong. I think that's the telling sign is that the first and third quarter, when you have the starters playing more with each other, I think it looked like to me that they were more cohesive and could stay more competitive with the Clippers. It wasn't until you saw the second units come out where the Clippers can thrive with a combination of Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, who they couldn't figure out the pick and roll at all on, and that's just something I think that has to be it has to be something that Frank Vogel and the coaching staff has to look at long term.
Yeah, and they will. Again, overall, I really don't think they played that bad. Lou Williams was making some crazy shots at some points. As a guy like that, if he's on, there's nothing you could do about it. I was actually shocked when I looked at the box score after the game and saw he only had 21 points because it seemed like he was nearing 40. But yeah, their bench obviously was much better than ours, specifically on the offensive end and really defensively if you take away Dwight Howard. But again, it's one game against arguably the best team in the league with when they have Paul George at least. So we'll see where we go from here. But I definitely like how everything is shaping up. I think there's a lot of positives to take away from yesterday, and I just got to say too, even though he's the enemy, I love Patrick Beverley, man. He is. Like he's a guy a lot of people love to hate, but the energy and intensity he brings on that defensive end, every team would be lucky to have a guy like that.
Absolutely. I mean, somebody that went out and was actually started off against LeBron, although they kind of exploited that in the beginning as far as LeBron playing off against Patrick Beverley. It was kind of interesting to see, especially the dichotomy of how big LeBron is versus how small Patrick Beverley is against him. But we've seen that before in the finals with Patrick Beverley playing off against Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. So it's something that he's not afraid to go up against, and it's just not afraid to go ahead and play defense on whoever it is. I think he thrives on those type of matchups. And you're right. If you're a Clippers fan, it is good to see those type of matchups because Patrick Beverley will just go out and attack defensively. I'm hoping that we can have that type of mentality at some point in time down the road. So that's one of the things I want to ask you. Defensively, can we get that type of mentality? I know we talked a lot of defense during the course of the preseason, and Anthony Davis, Defensive Player of the Year, and I'm going to get LeBron to go ahead and start playing some defense and all that. Can we see that type of mentality finally come to the Lakers so we can go ahead and get them over the hump?
There's no doubt they could be a very good defensive team. No doubt in my mind. As far as that edge factor, that chippiness that a guy like Beverly or even Montrez brings, I don't know. You need a guy in your locker room that can bring that. And do they have that? I mean, no one has. Maybe Rondo has shown it throughout his career. Can he still bring that? Who knows? Only time will tell. But there's no doubt they can be a very good defensive team. They have the players. It's just a matter of putting in the effort and consistency for a full 48 minutes, which you saw most of the first quarter. You saw bits and pieces throughout the rest of the game, but then there was moments where it fades, and when it fades, when you have a guy like Lou Williams on the floor, the other team will capitalize quickly.
So you'd mentioned on the air. You'd mentioned before we went on the air that being on the East Coast, you had to stay up late for it. So describe to Lakers fans out here on the West Coast and even in the Midwest, to what extents and to what lengths you have to go ahead and change your schedule around in order to accommodate going ahead and catching the Lakers on a platform such as this on the West Coast.
It's tough as far as changing the schedule. The only thing that's changed is I'm losing sleep because I still got to be up early. These 10:30 start times on the East Coast are brutal. I believe the game ended around like 1:15, 1:20, and I get up early. I'm up at 6 o'clock. So between that and then it takes a while to fall asleep because you still have the adrenaline going, whether it's a win or a loss. So it's tough. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely do not stay up for all the games. I actually don't, unfortunately, get a lot of the games. I only get the nationally televised ones. So when those do come around, I do try to stay up and catch all of them.
Well, it's appreciated that you have that type of enthusiasm, that you are willing to stay up that late. I know the league, for the most part, is going to shift some of those 10:30 games at least 30 minutes closer to being a 7 o'clock p.m. time, West Coast, 10 p.m. East Coast. That's going to help a little bit, but is that really going to go ahead and have you catch more games on the East Coast?
It'll help me watch the first quarter or the first half. Again, for game 37 against the Orlando Magic, I'm probably not staying up till 12:30, 1 o'clock to watch them. Also, it hurts too when it is on a channel like ESPN or TNT. They try not to start the game until after the first one ends, which obviously the Pelicans and Toronto game went to overtime, so they ended up starting the Laker game on NBA TV. But if it doesn't go to overtime, they typically wait till the first game ends, and that almost always goes later than the expected end time, and so the games always start later. I just know if I'm staying up, I'm in for a rough day the next day.
I hear you on that, my friend. I hear you on that. Once again, I'm speaking to Boomer Perrault. He is the host behind Unapologetically Me. You got to check out his awesome podcast. That's each and every time it comes out on the One a Week channel on SoundCloud. You got to check it out as soon as possible because it is a great mental health and awareness type podcast. And it's definitely good listening when you get a chance to listen to it. And at the end of the show, I'm going to have you talk a little bit more about your awesome show so you can get those people to come in and hopefully drive those numbers up for you, because it is deserving of a great listen there for you. But before we head on out, my friend, I want to ask you this, and that is the Utah Jazz. So we hit the lowest of lows to start off the season, but again, it's only one game
against a good team too.
Yes, and I'll probably be crying later in my box of Kleenex with TJ Johnson. He's coming up a little bit later on in the week, so I'll go ahead and cry with him on that. As far as we'll do the man cry together. Mm-hmm. But I will say this: what do the Lakers need to make as far as adjustments according to what you feel that they need to do in order to go ahead, maybe some tweaks to help maybe free up Anthony Davis a little bit more, or maybe free up LeBron a little bit more so that they're more efficient? And also, what can we do to keep Danny Green as hot as he did? Because that's something we didn't talk about at all, is Danny Green getting that type of game from him. He showed up, and not all the Lakers really just showed up as well as he did, because that was truly an outstanding performance. 28 points, hit from the three, did everything that we could have asked for from Lakers fans.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he pretty much put up the numbers you would have hoped LeBron would put up, and LeBron kind of put up the numbers you would hope Green put up. So in a way, they offset each other. But you just got to feed him. Guys like him, the 3-and-D players, I think you tend to know earlier on in the first half at least if they're hitting their shots or not. And if he's hitting like he was hitting last night, you just got to make sure he gets the ball. As far as going up against the Jazz, without Paul George on the Clippers, they're probably just as good, if not better than the Clippers. So I think, first off, on offense, as much as I love feeding Anthony Davis, and we still should do that, I think we need to try to get more off-ball movement. Pretty much the entire offense, each possession down, was either feed Anthony Davis or sometimes LeBron in the post, and then everyone stood around, not moving, letting them play iso ball and just getting ready to get the kick out for the shot. Or just pick and roll, but it was still a two-man game. Everyone else was standing around. So I think we definitely need to try to get more people involved, more ball movement, more off-ball movement, and really make the defense work a little harder than they had to last night, and that's the opposing defense. And then as far as our defense, we just got to be more consistent, because the thing with the Jazz, other than Gobert, pretty much everyone they're putting on the floor can hit a three. Donovan Mitchell's a very good scorer. Conley is a very good 3-point shooter. Bogdanovich, he can shoot the three. O'Neal, he can shoot the three. So I think we definitely need to hopefully bring that a little bit of that edge that a guy like Patrick Beverley would bring, and just continue to communicate and just keep it more consistent, because with a team that has so many 3-point shooters, if you fall off for 3, 4, 5 minutes, they're going to put up a lot of points if they're hitting their shots. So it just comes down to consistency and just, more ball movement on offense, I think.
I was hoping Avery Bradley could fill that role that Patrick Beverley does for the Clippers, that he would play that aggressive defender. I mean, there was times during the preseason that he was looking towards that, and I'm hoping that eventually he can go ahead and get that in place. But still, it is one game. And you're right. Friday they play the Utah Jazz, and hopefully they can go ahead and make those tweaks to make their start a little bit more palpable and hopefully a lot better for Lakers fans. But before we head on out, I wanted to ask you your thoughts. I mentioned this to you in a message that over the weekend, and that was your thoughts on the East and West, who will come out on top, your NBA champ, and your MVP of the league for this year.
So first, I'm going MVP, Giannis again. I just think he's going to come out just every year. If he can just slightly increase that jump shot, make it a little bit better, he's as close to unstoppable once he has that as you're going to find. So I think at this point, he is the best player in the league, and I think he's going to show it this year once again and be the MVP. As far as East versus West, I think it's, as always, it's going to be a lot of chalk. I think you're going to see the teams you expect, like Milwaukee, Boston, 76ers up there in the East, us, Clippers, and Jazz. Funny how we're starting with them on top of the West. And I think you'll see a showdown between the LA teams in the Western Conference Finals and 76ers, Milwaukee in the Eastern. And then might be biased, but this is my honest opinion. I think the Lakers will take down the Bucks in the final and get LeBron that next ring and Anthony Davis his first.
Well, let's hope that's the case, and let's hope it's one of those situations where the season starts on a bad note but ends up on a great one, as you were talking about. I also predicted the Lakers to win as well, to go all the way. I expect them to hopefully – well, I expect them to play – Philadelphia, but you're right. Philadelphia, Milwaukee, it's pretty much a toss-up in the East. They're both going to go very far as Eastern Conference is concerned. I think if there's anybody, maybe Boston, but I still think there's some holes in that roster that they have to fill. It's funny because Danny Ainge has this treasure trove of picks and players that he could go ahead and help build the team, but yet he's not able to pull the strings on that one great trade to get the kind of player that I think they need to put them over the top. So I think right now it is between Philadelphia and Milwaukee in the East. And with the West, yes, you're right. Those are some great picks as well. I mean, when you're talking Utah, the Clippers, the Lakers, I'm going to throw in Houston and Denver just to, as farther on the side. I think there's going to be 5 teams, as Vegas has it, 5 teams over 50 wins. So definitely there should be a great type of matchup. But yes, Lakers definitely look like, to me as well, somebody, even though despite the loss, that overall, once they really get going, they'll be able to go ahead and push forward and see hopefully a championship season as well. Well, I tell you what, it's just been awesome talking to you. But before we head on out, like I said, I want you to let everybody know about your awesome podcast, Unapologetically Me. It's, again, on the One a Week channel on SoundCloud. Tell everybody out there why they need to check into your awesome show.
Yeah, so when people usually think of, or when they hear mental health, they automatically think mental illness. But our podcast is not about mental illness. It's just about having a healthier, more positive, stronger mind. So I have people on and interview people from all walks of life. They could have a mental illness, a physical disability, could be in the military. It could be anything. And they just give their story, talk about some of the stresses they go through in life, and then give their tips that people can apply to their life on how they keep a stronger, clearer, more happier mind. So Yeah, I appreciate you letting me give this shout out. And like you said, it's on the One a Week SoundCloud channel. Just if you Google search Unapologetically Me, a mental health podcast, the whole thing, or just my name, Boomer Perrault, you'll find it. So
There you go. There you go. Indeed. Any type of social media that people can get a hold of you in case they have any questions about you and your show?
yeah, if you go to Instagram, which is @_1 a week, and that's the number one. So @_1 a week. That's my nonprofit organization I have, or our Facebook page, facebook.com/1a week challenge. You can find everything there.
Awesome. Awesome. I was contemplating the other day for my Pop Culture Cosmos channel to maybe start a TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about having to do that and just going to myself, oh my goodness, not another social media platform I have to go.
That's where all the kids are, though. That's the new poppin' one.
I know. I read an article about 2 years ago about it, looking more into detail, and I was like, oh, it's eventually going to come this way. And sure enough, it has. Enough, it has. We're talking about the Unapologetically Me TikTok channel or the Lakers Fast Break TikTok channel. This time next year, it's going to be something indeed. But Boomer, it's just been great having you here again. I'm hoping you'll be coming back on whenever you can make it on, because I know you do a lot of appearances. You do a lot of guest show appearances all over the world. Actually, your name, you're getting it out there, and just truly just great to see that. And I just cannot thank you enough, cannot congratulate you enough on all the work that you do, both in a nonprofit way and also with your show. So I wish you continued success. Wish continued success for the Lakers as well, and hope you'll be able to come back on as soon as you can to talk more about the great Lakers right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast.